learning more about new reports coming out of Mexico that female assassins are now working for the cartel. A Mexican television station capturing the women on the move, wearing tactical gear and armed with assault rifles.
They are stylish and beautiful, and in many cases, they are armed and active within Mexican cartels. According to one expert who trains American law enforcement on cartel activity, female numbers are on the rise. Now, law enforcement research indicates that cartels are still very much male-dominated, but in recent years, more women are joining the ranks in more active and deadly roles.
When you think about leaders of drug cartels, you likely picture tough, older men like Pablo Escobar, El Chapo, and Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo. They were powerful figures who didn't hesitate to resort to violence when necessary. It's less common to imagine young, attractive women in such roles. However, appearances can be deceiving. And sometimes, individuals who appear innocent and beautiful on the outside can be brutal and cruel on the inside. This was certainly the case for La Catrina, whose real name was María Guadalupe López Esquivel, was a beautiful Mexican woman with long, dark hair and a charming smile. Despite her outward beauty, La Catrina had a dark side. She used her looks and charm to play a leading role in one of the most violent and ruthless Mexican cartels in history. Contrary to popular belief, being a woman didn't stop La Catrina from quickly rising within the cartel. In fact, she was a high-ranking member who was just as brutal and ruthless as her male counterparts. She also used her good looks and body to become a famous Instagram star, showing off her guns, expensive clothes, and other things she got illegally by working for the cartel. She was proud of being in the cartel and liked showing off her criminal lifestyle. Despite her beauty, La Catrina was a ruthless killer who'd stop at nothing to make her cartel stronger. In the end, she paid the ultimate price, her life. Now, let's dive into the short and brutal life of this notorious female narco. La Catrina came from a modest background. She grew up in Tepocatepec, a city in southwest Mexico, where her father worked as a farmer and her mother was a homemaker. While they were a respectable family, money was often tight, like many others in their community. During her childhood, La Catrina didn't enjoy school and dreamt of a brighter future. She wanted to live a life of luxury and comfort. As she entered her teenage years, La Catrina made a life-changing decision to leave home. Around this time, she became very interested in cartels, partly inspired by her admiration for Kate del Castillo, a popular actress who portrayed a female narco boss in the Spanish TV series La Reina del Sur.
Nos vamos al refugio. No te separes de mí, ¿ok?
No me puedes dejar aquí, por favor.
Necesito alejar a estos de la playa. Es la única opción que tenemos, ¿ok?
Mendoza! You are good, but I got you.
In 2017, La Catrina's opportunity to join a cartel and pursue her dream of becoming a female narco finally arrived. She crossed paths with and fell in love with Miguel El M2 Fernandez, one of the leaders of the notorious Jalisco New Generation Cartel.
Fueling America's bottomless demand for drugs, Jalisco New Generation Cartel, known as CJNG, is now considered the most dangerous and fastest-growing drug cartel in the world.
Ven todo este dinero que tengo aquí. Yo no lo gané robando ni siendo narco. No siendo narco, sí.
The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, also known as CJNG, is a ruthless criminal organization that originated in the Mexican city of Jalisco between 2013 and 2015.
Jalisco is the home of world-famous mariachi music, the birthplace of tequila, and now Mexico's western state of Jalisco is a hotspot for drug-related violence. Much of it perpetrated by an armed group called the New Generation Jalisco Cartel.
This cartel is led by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho, one of the most wanted drug lords in the world.
Tonight, the DEA is offering $10 million for information leading to the arrest of the Mexican drug kingpin known as El Mencho. He's blamed for a flood of narcotics into the U.S.
CJNG is known for its extreme aggression and constant use of violence to expand its influence into new territories. There have been disturbing rumors of unspeakable acts committed against their rivals.
Y entonces, y pelándola, les cortan los brazos, y les quitan como que fuera yuca, pues, le quitan la carne, la cabeza por allá, los brazos por allá, y todo como.
They are known for using advanced tactics, such as drones and rocket launchers, to target their enemies. One time, they even fired at a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade.
The Jalisco New Generation Cartel took the fight to the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade, killing people, 6 of them, last week. Look at that. As the country cracks down on drug lords, the cartel has emerged as a new force, and a violent one.
But they're primarily known for their involvement in the narco trade, smuggling all manner of addictive products to various regions worldwide, including Europe, Asia, Australia, and the Americas.
The Jalisco New Generation cartel started, and now they've managed to become a really organized organization. They have the control of Jalisco, Michoacán, Guerrero, even Veracruz, which is a state on the complete opposite side of the country. And what they're doing is exporting and amphetamine, and so far we can say that Jalisco New Generation is enemy number one of President Enrique Peña Nieto's government now.
A major Mexican drug cartel operative has been sent to prison for trafficking meth in South Texas for over a decade. 48-year-old Homero Guerra Moreno from Mexico will serve 27 years in federal prison. It happened in Laredo on Wednesday. Since 2013, Guerra Moreno trafficked more than 33,000 pounds of meth from the Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación.
The U.S. Justice Department has labeled CJNG as one of the 5 most dangerous international criminal organizations in the world due to its significant role in trafficking drugs into the United States and the terrible violence it causes in Mexico. CJNG emerged as one of the greatest rivals of the Sinaloa cartel, especially after the arrest and imprisonment of the infamous drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman in 2019. Because of the CJNG's growing power, many have decided to join, including women. They often take on smaller, less violent roles within the cartel, such as helping to grow the illicit substance or participating in the transportation. For many Latin women, joining the cartel is the only way they feel they're able to escape poverty and provide for their families.
Según versiones de algunos informantes que manejamos nosotros en el sector, muchas mujeres, lastimosamente por la situación económica del país, se ven involucradas en trabajar de informantes de las pandillas o de venderles droga.
Nosotros somos pobres, sembramos, vendemos la hojita para mantener nuestro hogar y nuestros hijos educarlos. Dice que va a haber apoyo para dejarla sembrar las cocas. Hasta el día de hoy, ¿qué apoyo? Nada, ningún apoyo para nosotros.
However, unlike most of the women who only want to survive, La Catrina's ambitions went far beyond that. She aspired to achieve more and eventually became one of the CJNG's most notorious female cartel leaders of all time. La Catrina didn't just join the cartel to survive. She wanted money, power, and control, and would stop at nothing to get to the top. Quickly, she became an assassin for the cartel, otherwise known as a sicaria, or a hit woman.
According to security experts, female cartel members are not new, but their numbers are on the rise lately. And with a lucrative drug war raging in Mexico, more women are becoming assassins, often even more ruthless than the men.
They don't want to be the cartel wife of the old days. They want part of the action. They love the action, they love the excitement, they love the money. And they want to be able to call some shots also.
Not only calling shots, but taking shots and lives as sicarias, or female assassins, a major asset for cartels.
Sicarias like La Catrina use their charm and good looks to lure in the cartel's enemies. They operate like spiders, drawing their prey into their webs, leaving them with nowhere to escape.
You know, it could be a very pretty girl that you say, oh, there's no way this girl works for the cartel. Or if she does work for the cartel, she's definitely not a killer. And then they find out that that's not the case.
La Catrina didn't just use her beauty to attract enemies. She also leveraged it to promote the cartel. She became an Instagram model, using her appearance to draw people in and showcase the cartel lifestyle. She posted images of herself, showing off her figure while holding dangerous firearms. She shared photos and videos of helicopter rides, handling money, and participating in other illegal cartel activities. She shamelessly displayed her ill-gotten wealth and lifestyle working as a cartel sicaria. In time, La Catrina's beauty, brutality, and dedication to the cartel catapulted her to a position of power within the CJNG. She became a local boss and one of El Mencho's top regional lieutenants. She led her own team of ruthless hitmen, who, under her command, became one of the most feared groups within the entire cartel. La Catrina played a significant role in planning, organizing, and executing various serious crimes for the cartel, which included kidnapping, extortion, and leading cartel assassinations. Additionally, she paid fellow criminals and informants who supplied her with valuable information she could use to help the cartel. Under the guidance of her boyfriend, El M2, La Catrina was able to become the notorious and lethal narco boss lady she had always aspired to be. She was able to cause some serious harm, planning deadly attacks that took many lives. Eventually, she earned the chilling nickname La Catrina, symbolizing her role as the cartel's Dame of Death, who brought death and destruction wherever she went. So how did the title La Catrina come about? And why did María Guadalupe López Esquivel select it as her gang name? It all began in the early 1900s, when an artist named José Guadalupe Posada introduced a character called La Catrina, which translates to the elegant lady, in a political cartoon published in the local newspaper. Posada drew inspiration for his character from the Aztec goddess of death, the ancient ruler of the underworld. According to Aztec beliefs, this goddess protected the bones of the dead and controlled access to the afterlife. Using elements inspired by the Aztec deity, Posada drew a skeleton-like figure dressed in fancy European attire. This figure, known as La Catrina, was intended to mock Mexico's wealthy elite.
Posada published what would become his most famous image, La Catrina. At the time, many of Mexico's ruling class were obsessed with acting and looking European. To mock them, Posada put a fancy French hat on the Aztecs' female god of death. His statement, "Rich or poor, we all die. Death is the great equalizer."
But as time passed, La Catrina became more than just a satirical cartoon character. She became a significant part of Mexico's Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead celebrations. Today, La Catrina serves as a reminder that death is something no one can escape. She is also a symbol of remembrance and pays tribute to those who have recently departed. During Day of the Dead celebrations, you can spot La Catrina all around. In paintings, sculptures, and even on clothing and masks, she has become an important symbol of Mexican culture, representing a balance between life and death.
Porque quiero verme como ella.
María Guadalupe López Esquivel aimed for fame and power like the famous Dame of Death, so she chose the name La Catrina to show she was a force in the cartel who had the power to decide whether others would live or die. She even got a tattoo of La Catrina on her left thigh, which she proudly displayed on her social media. Her tattoo resembled the typical image of La Catrina, a beautiful lady with a skeleton face. Like La Catrina, death was a significant part of Maria's life. She was as cold and unfeeling as the Aztec goddess of death, on whom the character was inspired, and cared very little about other people's lives. La Catrina was responsible for many deaths, even orchestrating a plan that tragically took the lives of several officers, turning her Dame of Death title into a grim reality. On October 14th, 2019, a tragic event unfolded in El-Guah-dah-LOO-peh, a town in Mexico. It marked one of the deadliest attacks ever carried out by La Catrina, under the orders of El Mencho. On that fateful day, officers were serving a warrant to a home in El-Guah-dah-LOO-peh around 8 a.m. What they didn't know was that they were walking right into a dangerous trap set by the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. As the officers' trucks drove through El-Guah-dah-LOO-peh, they were suddenly attacked. About 30 gunmen started firing at them with powerful weapons, like 50 caliber sniper rifles, AR-15s, and AK-47s. The area quickly turned into a bloody battleground. Heartbreaking images of this terrible attack showed several officers lying on the ground with devastating injuries. Their patrol trucks were riddled with bullet holes before being set on fire.
La chamba de 4.
Tragically, 13 officers lost their lives, and at least 9 others were hurt. This attack stands as one of the deadliest assaults on Mexican law enforcement in recent times. To claim responsibility for this terrible act, gunmen from the Jalisco New Generation Cartel left messages on 2 poster boards. These messages not only admitted their role in the brutal attack, but also sent a chilling warning to officers working with rival groups, specifically naming Los Templarios, Viagras, and Chocomiles de Tepec gangs. After the attack, fear spread, and people stayed off the streets to avoid getting caught up in the CJNG cartel's violence. The families of the victims were devastated. Officers felt abandoned and angry, with one officer saying, "We don't have the means to defend ourselves. We don't have the support we need to take on any criminal group." So why did this attack happen in the first place? What was the CJNG's goal? Well, the CJNG had its sights set on taking control of El Aguaje and the surrounding areas, known collectively as the Tierra Caliente, or the Hot Land. Falco Ernst, a Mexico researcher at the nonprofit International Crisis Group, described this region as a chaotic area with no clear authority where various criminal groups operate. The area is very violent, with many fights and deadly attacks breaking out between rival cartels. The CJNG aimed to establish dominance in the Tierra Caliente region and take over control of the drug trade. Their strategy involved eliminating smaller or weaker rival cartel groups, some of which had connections with local law enforcement and politicians. By targeting the police, they intended to send a straightforward message: anyone supporting rival gangs would face violent repercussions from the CJNG. So what was La Catrina's role in all of this? Well, after the attacks, Mexican security forces found evidence that La Catrina played a big part in the ambush. She paid a group of informants, known as halcones, about $210 each week to gather vital information for the cartel that she could use for her plans. Plus, there's an audio recording where La Catrina confirms getting orders from her boyfriend, Miguel El M2 Fernandez, to set up the attack on the convoy scheduled for October 14th in Argalija. In that leaked recording, El M2 tells La Catrina what to do, and she assures him that she's got everything covered and will carry out the mission. El M2 asks, "Are you taking responsibility for what I told you?" And La Catrina replies, "Yes, Commander, we just had a flat tire." But it's important to note that La Catrina wasn't the only one responsible. Some El Aguaje officers think that their own colleagues might have been involved in the deaths of their fellow officers. They suspect this because they were sent into El Aguaje without enough backup, even though everyone knew it was a dangerous place due to cartel violence. So some believe that corrupt officials might have made an agreement with CJNG to send in lower-ranked officers, despite knowing what would happen to them. Overall, this attack highlights La Catrina's deep involvement in the cartel and sheds light on the overall brutality of the CJNG. It also serves as a sobering reminder of the risks law enforcement officers encounter when dealing with organized crime. Furthermore, it exposes the unsettling reality that even within Mexico's justice system, there is corruption, which creates more opportunities for the cartels to strike. In January 2020, Mexican authorities were determined to catch La Catrina. They knew she had played a big role in the attack that killed several officers in Aguajilla back in October 2019, and they wanted to bring her to justice. Their effort to catch her had become more intense, and this put La Catrina in a risky situation. The Mexican Army, National Guard, and Michoacan State Police eventually found her and her group in a town called La Bocanada in Aguajilla, Mexico. This set the stage for a fierce battle. Before the fight, the cartel tried to block the Apatzagan-Aguajillo Road to stop officers and security forces from reaching their hideout. But the security forces acted fast and removed the roadblock, which led to a gunfire exchange. Once they got rid of the roadblock, the security forces had the upper hand, and the confrontation ended. During the chaos of the gunfire, La Catrina, the notorious gang member, was hit. Terrible images and videos later circulated, taken from one of the officers' body cams. They showed La Catrina sitting by a wall, gravely injured, with a bullet wound to her neck. After La Catrina was hit, one of the soldiers, who she had just been fighting against, tried to comfort her as she struggled to breathe.
Tranquila, mija, ya viene el helicóptero por ti. Ya viene el helicóptero. Tranquila, hija, tranquila. Vas a estar bien. Trata de aguantar, ¿eh?
Eventually, La Catrina was carried to a helicopter, her arms clinging to one of the same soldiers she had been fighting with just moments earlier. She was barely clinging to life. Later, she could be seen lying on a stretcher en route to the hospital, her jeans and black t-shirt red-stained. La Catrina's injuries were really bad, and she eventually died because of severe bleeding from her neck wound. She was the only one who didn't make it that day. None of the law enforcement agents or CJNG gang members got hurt during the raid. However, the officers did catch at least 6 other CJNG members. At first, there were rumors that one of those 6 was La Catrina's partner and the CJNG's top boss in Tierra Caliente, Miguel el M2 Fernández.
Miguel Fernández, alias el M2, y jefe de la plaza del Cártel Jalisco Nueva Generación, CJNG, en Tierra Caliente y quien fue detenido el pasado 10 de enero por el ejército mexicano, tras un enfrentamiento, en el que murió María Esquivel, la Catrina, ambos presuntos líderes.
But later reports said El M2 wasn't among the CJNG members captured in this operation. The army also seized a bunch of weapons like rifles, magazines, and ammo from the gang. They also took away several gang-owned vehicles during the raid. La Catrina was just 21 years old when she died, and she had spent most of her short life involved in cartel activities. In her social media posts, she portrayed herself as a strong femme fatale. However, in her final moments, she looked scared and alone, like a frightened child. Her tough exterior had finally crumbled, and it was clear she regretted the choices that led her to this point. She knew her time was up and that the terrible thing she had done had finally caught up with her. The tragic end of La Catrina reminds us of the dangers tied to cartels and organized crime. Her death was just one part of Mexico's ongoing battle against these criminal groups. Although La Catrina is no longer alive, the CJNG cartel remains as strong as ever and is still one of the most dangerous gangs in Latin America and beyond. La Catrina dedicated her short life to the cartel, but met a violent end. This tells us that no amount of money, drugs, or fancy possessions could protect her from her terrible fate. In Mexico and other countries, law enforcement officers and agencies are working hard to fight organized crime and to make their communities safe. But it's important to realize that not everyone within these agencies is committed to justice. Some have become corrupt and are working with the criminal groups they should be opposing. La Catrina was able to cause more harm because of this corrupt system. More women like La Catrina are choosing to join cartels for money, protection, and power. How many more women like La Catrina will emerge before we see real change? Share your thoughts in the comments below.